I invite our next stellar speaker, that is Dr. Ajoy Prabhu, to give his talk. While he's setting up his laptop, I can tell you a little bit about him. He's got a very, very impressive CV. He's a co-founder and CTO of the Circee Health Private Limited, DCA MS Pathology, MBA Marketing, member of Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. The main accolades that we can talk about him are that he has worked at the US White House to collate federal resources during the Obama administration. He's been a finalist in Shark Tank India Season 1, Sony TV. He's managed medical interventions, patents, marketing for US, NIH, FDA, and CDC. Founded 6 startups in USA, Australia, and India, and authored 2 patents in the field of medical diagnostics.
So first and foremost, I want to start with the apology. How many of you are physicians, doctors?
Doctors.
So you guys can just go to sleep, because I was under the impression that this is going to be for lay people, and you can ask me technical questions then in that case. So you'll see very, very lay slides here. Okay, so now I will not be mentioning any compounds, nothing, no IL-6, nothing in here. Okay, so just bear with me. For the people who are here from the vegan fest and stuff like that, maybe they can. So I am going to talk about the importance of gut health this time around. Later on, it's going to be something else. But since we are most of us are physicians, I still talk in terms of lay person's perspective. But if you guys have any questions in terms of what I'm talking about, please ask. So I'm going to start with a story here. And the story is of a sister, 2 sisters actually, twins. And one of the sister was depressed, and she couldn't figure out what to do about it, and so on and so forth. And at some point in time, she was consulting a physician, and the physician said, "Oh, you have a twin, right? And the twin is very bubbly and bouncy." So she was always very happy, and this woman was always depressed. And of course, the doctor won't mind this, but the lay people this may be a little bit, easy. But she asked for basically giving a little bit of her poop to her sister. It's called FMT, fecal microbiota transplant, which basically, you clean the poop out and give only the microbiomes from that poop. And this lady got the stuff, and she became happy. The power of the gut is unreal. We never realized it for the longest time. There have been incidences since like about 100 years. We've known that the gut can do something. We're not quite sure what it is. We've talked about longevity. We've talked about immunity. We've talked about mental health. But it's always been if you look at the research papers, you will see that there are little snippets of data. The gut can help with the immune system. The gut can help with your mental stability, or in this girl's case, her depression went away, right? So she gave her her own gut bacteria. So what exactly is gut bacteria? Gut bacteria, here's a sad little man showing his entire entrails out. Gut bacteria are actually outside of our body. They're not inside our body, believe it or not, because we have the same kind of cells that we have outside. Sorry for this, people. The same kind of cells that we have outside on our body, we have the same kind of cells inside. So basically, the gut microbiome is sitting on the outside of us, because the reason I'm saying that is because, so that's the gut, and I'm saying that because the bacteria are inside there, right? But there are no bacteria in our flesh. There's nothing. I mean, it's a bad thing if you have bacteria in your muscles and so on, in your brain. And so on. So we have no bacteria there. Bacteria are all residing in there. But I am going to argue here that are we more human or bacteria? People will be shocked to find the truth. So here's the human body, just putting a percentage in it. Thank you. So move around. These are things. So here's the human body. What percentage of human cells? So we are made of human cells, right? So what percentage of human cells are we? Do you think 30%, 60%, 80%? It's so we made of bacteria and human cells, and less than like 20 to 30% are human cells. We are mostly bacteria. I am standing here, I'm mostly bacteria. Actually, if you look at the number of cells that I have more bacterial cells than human cells inside me. Okay. Now it gets even worse if you look at the genes from the bacteria versus the genes from human beings. Now, if I just count the number of genes that I can get from all those bacteria and the genes that I can, look at my own genes on another human being, that gets, it's magnified even more so. So that's right there. That little thing is human genes. Everything else is bacterial genes. So there's a tremendous influence of bacteria on our well-being. So it's extremely important. And we've been realizing it, like I said earlier, we've been realizing that this is important, but we never really paid so much attention to our gut till recently, very recently. Right? In middle school, high school, we've learned that the brain controls the digestive system. So there are some nerves that do some transmission, and it tells us about hunger pangs and so on and so forth, and then we digest food, etc., etc. We've known this for a while. Right? Very recently, we've known about one particular nerve called the vagus nerve for a while, that it actually sends signals back towards the brain, and like trying to figure out why is that the case, right? In addition to that, there are other compounds, like one of the compounds, like neuropeptide. There are like little compounds that actually are made by bacteria, and those compounds create a signal back to the brain saying, "Do this, be happy," or the immunity is better, or whatever it is. That the gut actually controls the brain using some of these chemical signals, as well as some of the actual nerve signals. The number of diseases that the gut microbiome influences is enormous. I'm not even going to read through these. I mean, this is just a litany. This is actually, it's not. I just got tired of writing. I mean, I said I'm just going to put down some and finish it off and stop. But I just wanted to put some of the major ones. So you see some of the things that you would have normally not expected. Diabetes is here. Asthma is here. Skin conditions are here. I mean, where is the gut and where is the skin condition? I already talked about mental health disorders, right? That with a girl. So there are so many things that the gut controls. It's extremely important for us to maintain a good, healthy gut balance. I mean, so we have to have we basically think of it as fertilizer. We need to give our gut some good fertilizer so that the good bacteria grow and get rid of all the other stuff that promotes bacteria that we don't want in our system. And there are several bacteria. By the way, I also have to say that I believe no more than 1% or 2% of the bacteria that we have in our gut we actually know about them. Because traditionally how we do it is we take the poop and we plate it, we take it to the lab and we plate it, or we do some things to it and grow the bacteria. Okay. So if we know how to grow the bacteria, then we see the bacteria. If the bacteria does not find the food that it's looking for, it will never grow. So as a result, we human beings, we as scientists and doctors do not know what kind of bacteria actually we still have in our gut. Okay. We kind of have an idea now because we can do certain things like proteomics and genomic analysis and mapping to see what kind of bacteria these might be. We cannot grow them. It's like you go touch a wall blindly and say, yeah, there's something here, but we don't know what it is. It's that many bacteria we have that we don't even know any idea about. But what we know is what they like, and what they like is. So let's just talk about some. These are very, very basic. There are bacteria. Some of the bacteria I just named, Lactobacillus, E. coli, Bifidobacterium. These are good bacteria. We want to encourage these bacteria, not E. coli 157. but some of the other ones. Then there are some bad bacteria that you may have heard. Diseases causing bacteria, right? Clostridia, Salmonella, Helicobacter, Vibrio. These are the bacteria that cause Vibrio, for example, causes cholera. So you don't want these bacteria in your body. So what can you do to reduce this and increase that? It's a very simple, I mean, it's simple to say, but harder to practice. However, if you try hard enough, you might be able to do this, and you should be able to do this. Not quite. First of all, we need a scaffold like a ladder or like a building material onto which these bacteria can attach themselves, and those are called prebiotics. Leafy green vegetables, beans. When beans are chewed up, they become phenomenal places for bacteria to hide and grow in. Then we need something called probiotics. Probiotics are the ones that actually encourage the bacterial growth. All right. So fermented foods. I mean, for probiotics, the main ones are basically fermented foods. So I've listed them. Any kind of fermented food. Of course, I being a company, I have to list out the idli and dosa and all. But dokla and kava and tofu. Even tofu is fermented. So these things have precursors that these bacteria love. So you need to have those. Fresh fruits, root vegetables are also important. They actually encourage the mucosa. In the gut we have some mucus, so that it helps with the mucus. And then of course some of the other what we call ancient grains outside, but millets and coarse grains, even rice is good. As long as it's not like this ultra polished rice, it's excellent for health. All right. If it was not, then half of China and Japan would be sick. Now, what should we avoid? And that's the one that I wish there were youngsters I think, but would love for them to see this. Unfortunately, try to avoid any of this listed here. So any animal-based product, whether it's actually meat, whether it is actually dairy, whether anything coming from an animal, whether it's lard, for example, so that's I don't know where it qualifies, whether it's an animal or dairy, but anything coming from an animal is pro-inflammatory. We don't want that in our body. Our body just does not. I think it's just that our body. I can go on for hours on this. But just trying to make it simplified. Our body just is not compatible with these compounds. Okay, and I've already talked about dairy. So all these ultra processed and processed foods and refined foods that we have, unfortunately, I love the save and bhatia and all, but you have to try to minimize these things a little bit because these are really they actually can inflame your microbiome, your gut itself, and as a result, you will have more tendency to not have the kind of good bacteria that you should have in your gut. All right, and then this last slide. This is not just about food; it's also about eating a diverse range of foods. So, for example, we talk about colored foods to our patients quite often. People tell them what kind of foods they should be eating. Lack of probiotics, so fermented foods, very important. Lack of physical activity, I cannot stress that enough because, for example, if you're just simply walking, you're actually moving your gut muscles. So it helps, massage it, if you will, right? Alcohol, drinking too much alcohol is absolutely not a great idea for your gut. Cigarette smoking is likewise. Antibiotic use, my wife and I are like big proponents of this thing. We just like go crazy when we see people just taking an antibiotic for a cold and so on and so forth. And it's a hard battle, but we need to keep fighting it because antibiotics just. There was one study I read in remember where it was, but said the first dose of even ampicillin takes about 6 months or something for the gut microbiome to recover. Just the first dose of your simple ampicillin, it messes it up. Not getting sleep, that's again it's stress causing. So too much stress. So that's pretty much all I have. Again, I apologize for not making it more technical. I try to keep it simple because I thought I'll get an idea. So, and if you need to contact me, you have appointments. Questions?
Thank you, Dr. Ajoy, for a fantastic lecture. Should we take the questions now or later?
I have a question about Suji. I saw you
Yeah.
mention Suji. It's
Huh?
wheat, right?
So yeah, and like the doctor said earlier, I completely concur with him. So if we try to have more, a lot more refined stuff, that's not good. However, if you can get, unfortunately, the only way these days you can get it is organic and so on. So we have various levels of suji. The kind of suji that I remember eating in our village back in Udupi is very coarse. It's like almost just, like basically just cut the wheat in two kind of a thing. And as kids, we hated it. Now I love it because I know it's good for me. So I'm like, eating it like crazy. So that kind of suji, not the one that is almost like maida, so what happens is it has a lot of surface area for the bacteria to grow on. Remember I said talked about the prebiotic?
Yeah.
So it's fantastic for prebiotics.
The coarse one.
Yes, the coarse one.
Also, there was a fermented foods. There's
Yes.
such a discussion and debate on that. What about for autoimmune diseases?
So I'm talking about for a person that has no disease condition. For autoimmune, you really need to watch out because in certain cases it can inflame certain markers, inflammatory markers are there, so it can inflame it. But by and large, I mean we've not had any issues, right? I mean in terms of so we've not had a major concern about it. There are some literature that says that there are some inflammatory markers that can be enhanced because of the fact that you're already have an autoimmune condition and you're having. So, for example, if you have celiac or something, obviously you don't want to have suji, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, so I find with all these things, one can't generalize. It has to be very specific.
Right. So these are all, anybody standing here, I can guarantee you that we'll all be talking about generals. So, we don't have not even one iota of idea about your health or somebody else's health. So everybody is an individual. We need to look at the individual's, medical history, the genetic history, the family history, lifestyle, and so on before we come up with a solution that works. Everybody's unique.
What about curds is not mentioned?
Yes. Yes. So curds is a
probiotic.
Well, yes, it is. But the problem is that it also has a lot of dairy and like a lot of compounds like IGF and stuff like that in dairy that is not exactly great for health. So you have to. It is a fantastic that it has Dysbiosis. It has a whole bunch of other bacteria that are really good for you. So our take on it is either take one of the, especially in India, get a probiotic that is made for the Indian population. There are some probiotics specifically made for the Indian population that have the bacteria in it. If you're not willing to take a pill, next thing in line is for you to just take fermented foods. We try to avoid asking them to have dahi and yogurt and lassi and so on. So that's my recommendation. But
do you get the curds from soya milk?
Yes, you do. Actually, peanut curd, we get this it's a traditional Marathi way of making peanut curd. It's phenomenal. I mean,
Does it work as well?
Yes, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, we love it.
These curds are very easily made at home.
Yes,
very easily made at home.
Yeah.
There's no
Can
science.
you dahi in the stall there? It is made from soya,
oh, lovely.
and it's lovely. I've just tasted.
You can make it at home. Just the starter would be from your dairy curd because you don't have an option. There are options, but
Yes.
that's more complicated.
Yes.
Yeah. You can. That's what I said. There are more complicated ways, but the simplest is first time when you use it, use your starter from your dairy curd. As the time goes by, after 3 or 4 rounds, there'll be minuscule or non-existing dairy. And it's very easy to do.
The talk on flax.
Sorry.
The person is sick,
Mhm.
what diet should be given, what should not be given, and what green vegetables should be given.
So each person is like a fingerprint. So if a person is sick, we need to know everything about that person. I cannot, we can only give very broad strokes. Whatever I've said is very broad strokes, right? So some things may not be suitable for that person. For example, I mentioned, like Suji. I'm just taking that example because you mentioned it. So if that person has a, irritable bowel syndrome or some disease like celiac disease or something like that, then we should avoid that. So without knowing what the condition is, so a lot of times, we tend to just kind of say, okay, this is my best guess. We are always tempted to give our best guesses, but we should not. We really should not. Health practitioners should not give best guesses unless we know about the patient's history, what kind of conditions that they've gone through, what their lifestyle is, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So, could you throw some light on gut microbiome analysis? Is it done in India? And what is the cost?
Yes.
How to go about it?
Yeah. So she had come to us like almost 20 years ago, and I don't know if you know, Map My Genome is a company by Anu Acharya. She had come to us 20 years ago asking for some of these things, and they have now finally. I talked to her a couple of weeks ago. Finally, they actually have a gut microbiome analysis kit, and I believe it's like, don't hold me to it, it's about 6,000 or 7,000 rupees. Is it 8? Okay, 8. There you go. 8. It's just been introduced.
And how reliable is it?
I have never tested her test kit, but I think if you, I'm a data guy. I have to see data before I can endorse her product. Even though I've known her for a long time, I do want to see some data. I've not seen that yet.
So early days for them actually.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so many items were given: fermented food, prebiotics, oats. Suppose they won't take fermented food,
Yes.
but other things will take. Then also, it is okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's not required a person if ferment not suited or not advisable. Then other things.
Yes.
will
Yes,
not
absolutely.
require.
And the thing is, we should not, a lot of times, like yesterday, we had a patient that kept talking about, we don't want to have what did she say? A diet. I said, man, I'm saying when you are 85, what is the kind of food and what is the kind of lifestyle you're going to have? Think through that. So I don't care if you're a meat eater. Eat the meat, no problem. But eat meat like the way the Japanese in Okinawa used to eat, like once a year, one little piece of pork, and they're done. Whatever their festival. After that, it was only what is it? Shakapandi. What is it? Sweet potatoes, right? So it's okay. Don't treat it as a like blinders on. Okay, you have to have it.
Yeah, I mean other things. Also gut bacteria, good gut bacteria will grow.
Yeah, I eat safe sometimes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Doctor,
One
yes, big difference. I can tell you stories about that.
one last question.
Take on flax seeds because everybody keeps saying about flax seeds. To our temperatures, this is not what is our regular food, flax seeds. Today it's going same thing with chia seeds. Our subja is even more greater than chia seeds, The same way with instead of flax seeds, we have horse gran, kulit, which is if you check between that and this, kulit is way, way higher.
In what?
When you're talking about flax seeds with the fiber.
But in what? In fiber or
Fiber content, yeah. Because today everyone's advising 1-2 spoons of flax seeds.
Yeah.
The heat in our body doesn't really work with flax seeds as much as it would do with kulit.
Okay.
And again, we are temperature-based eaters. What grows in south and what grows in north.
Right.
So I was just saying that.
that.
Saying that only, it was not for you, sir.
Oh, okay.
The previous doctor mentioned about flax seeds.
Yeah. So I have to, I just want to say something here, and that is, we don't realize that how many things that we consider Indian are not Indian at all. We love millets, right? They're not Indian. Hello, they're not Indian. They came from Africa. So we have adopted it over a few years, and we're like very happy with it, and we proudly say millet and blah blah blah, lovely. It's great stuff. Okay, 100 years from now, we might say flaxseed is fantastic because it suits our body. You see, I'm not an Ayurvedic doctor. I cannot comment at all about the heat part, but I'm just telling you from a science. I'm a scientist at heart. I mean, I've been in the lab for a gazillion years, so all I can tell you is that from a scientific point of view, if kulit, which is some beet, a lot of is tons of fiber, we love that. Okay. If flaxseed has tons of fiber, we love that. I mean, I have no problem. The only problem I have with flaxseed is money.
Yes.
Costs a lot of money.
And same thing with soya, sir. Can you throw a light on soya?
Flaxseed does not cost a lot of money unless you buy it in the bottled version.
I'm just looking at my wife.
Circee is an absolutely local product. Flaxseed powder it costs nothing.
There's a debate about the powder. As soon as you powder it, the shelf life is 3.
That is a separate story.
Yeah.
I'm not going into that because that is processing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's and plus seasonal.
That's a separate story.
I'm happy to hear that part.
And last question.
I'm hoping that my wife also heard that.
Sir, one last question.
Yes, sir.
A lot of gastroenterologists are talking about this Bacillus coagulus.
Coagulatus. Yeah.
What is it?
Bacillus coagulatus means, from the name, it sounds like a bacteria that causes coagulation. In what? I have no idea. And anybody else that knows what
that microbiome is there?
It may be. So, like I said,
Bacillus is now identified one of the good bacteria.
yeah. So there are the thing is, like I said, 20 years ago, or even 15, 20, almost 20 years ago, the only way we know what bacteria there was by old-fashioned growing it. Now we have technology where we just simply look at the genomic sequences we get and say, this is, there's some bacteria. We don't know what that is, but this is a very unique sequence that we found. Another sequence we found. So we can say, okay, there are about 10,000 different types of bacteria or bacteroides species and all kinds of things in there. We don't even know there are some bacteriophages that are living in our gut very happily, and we have no idea what they do. Right? So, I mean, there can be many such examples, right?
So that soya, could you throw some light on soya?
Yes.
Because it's suddenly become a fad
Yes.
of soya.
Yes.
So was it our food?
It is not. Technically, I mean, many things are not our food. I mean, like I said, I even gave you a harsh example of millets.
Tomatoes and
Tomato, potatoes, mirchi is not our food. So we really should not. We should step away from that and look at it from a very objective perspective. Whether this works for our body, or works for human beings as such. Whether it's an Alaskan human being, an Eskimo human being, or whether it's a Kalahari Bushman, we are all made up of the same genetic material, same identical genetic material. So if it works for that person, it will work for this person. It will work for India. We are not some superior being that humko nahi hota, aise na. It's not nothing like that.
Weather conditions.
So no, even weather conditions. Yes, ma'am. Even weather conditions. Now, so again, like I said, I'm not an Ayurvedic. I'm not at all an expert in that. If somebody from an Ayurvedic standpoint says that this is not good, then I'll say, okay, that's not my expertise. I'll agree. As far as soya is concerned, I think somebody else had also mentioned earlier, it is actually protective for, I believe, ovarian and breast.
yes.
Right? And there was one exception, but I believe no, there are no exceptions. No exception. Okay, no exception. I just looked at my wife because she's more of an expert in that. So she'll will you be talking about that when you talk? Okay. So she has a talk on kitchen ingredients, and I believe she's going to be talking about soya also. So she'll give you a big lowdown on soya. It's not really, Okay.
I
Thank
have
you.
one question,
Yes, yeah.
last question. When you spoke of antibiotics, what if one has to take it and you add a neutral and B complex with it? What would you recommend?
Yes. Yeah. So when you're taking antibiotic, and if you're not a very strict vegan and you can tolerate something, then take some like a probiotic that has some animal stuff in it, like dahi, yogurt, chas, something like that, because you want some of those probiotics to be in your tummy when the antibiotic goes in. Okay, so if you have to take it, I mean, you have to take it because, let's be honest. I mean, antibiotics have saved billions of lives. You cannot just say that we're not going to take it at all.
But you can take.
Yes. Sorry?
You can take.
Okay, peanut curd. Yes, she said you can take peanut curd.
Yes. Vegan probiotic.
Any vegan probiotic.
Vegan probiotic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Thanks.
That's